As you well know, I enjoy playing with big weapons in all shapes and sizes. However, what you may not know is that I like to play with small weapons too, and one of the best ways of doing that is with Lego. A great variety of small figures with a wonderful selection of small weapons. We've got swords of all descriptions, axes, spears, halberds, and long pole... what is this thing? Hello everyone, 6.0 HEMA here, and today we're going to have a look at this, a Lego weapon that has always made me wonder just what exactly even is it? It's obviously some sort of polearm with a spear blade at the tip for thrusting and two horn-like prongs on the sides, which are presumably for hooking or swinging at things. It hasn't been included in an official set since 2015's Ninjago City of Sticks, but it used to be quite popular, showing up all the time in Castle and Knight's Kingdom type things. At least, it was more popular than you'd think, given the esoteric nature of the weapon. I mean, swords and spears are essentially universal concepts, so it makes sense to include those in playsets, but this thing it's just bizarre, and I needed to investigate. Starting with the official part number, 43899. Now, Bricklink has it listed as minifigure weapon pike with 4 side blades. Rebrickable's got weapon pike slash spear, 4 side blades, and Brick Owl calls it spear with 4 side blades. While there certainly is agreement on the side blades, all of these descriptions are not super helpful. I mean, especially the reference to a pike. A pike is characterized by its extreme length, and a large heavy head like this would make it very difficult to wield. Now, there exist several types of spears with horns at the side, often known as winged spears. The most well known is probably the boar spear, which has horizontal horns, meant to stop a charging animal from riding all the way up the haft. Then there's the ear spoon, very similar to a boar spear but with reinforced lugs, and probably intended for both hunting and combat use. There's also the partisan, which does have more upswept type horns as a more offensive modifier to the boar spear. Also there's the spetum, which even has folding variations thought to have seen use mainly as an armament for bodyguard. Finally, the 13th century spetum evolved by the 15th century into the ranseur, which generally replaced the edged flanges with more pointed protuberances. It hung around in ceremonial use until the 17th century. Now, any of these seem like a likely candidate for the base of this weapon, but I struggled to find any examples with the additional downswept points that we have on the Lego polearm. In fact, it's difficult to find many weapons with any downswept points because they're very difficult to use in combat. They simply don't point at the opponent. This is why, for example, the scythe is not typically used as an offensive weapon, although P.H. Mayer does of course detail the use of scythes in a self-defense or sporting context. When the scythe was brought to the battlefield, it was modified into the war scythe, with the blade now mounted in line with the haft, enabling some limited use of the point in thrusting, but full use of the blade for slashing, very similar to other pole blades like the European glaive or the Japanese naginata. On weapons where the point does face towards the wielder, it's intended primarily for a hooking use, either controlling an opponent on foot, dismounting a cavalryman, or disarming your opponent entirely. The most notable example of this type of weapon is the bill, or perhaps the subtype of bill called the guisarme, which is often also referred to as a type of glaive. But my personal favourite of this type of hooking weapon is the lochaber axe, which is kind of like a large volge with an aggro-looking hook on there for extra functionality. I did have a brief ray of inspiration while researching the Lego weapon when I came across the fengtian, a type of Chinese spear with 2 crescent-shaped blades mounted to the sides. This does have a very similar profile to our spear with side blades, although the crescents have been rotated 90 degrees. However, the fengtian seems to be built with cutting in mind, while I have to imagine our Lego thing is less of a cutter and more of a hooker and jabber. Conceivably the edges could be sharpened, but it's just a strange sort of profile if that was the intent of this weapon. Now, I'd like to take a step back to where we were with the winged spears, specifically to one that I did not mention before. This is a spontoon. To be more specific, take a look at this image from C.W. Jeffrey's 1942 work, The Picture Gallery of Canadian History, Volume 1. We see spontoons of various types, and check out the 1730 French one. It's remarkably close in shape and design to our Lego polearm. It doesn't have the side spikes, but I wondered if that was a manufacturing or a safety thing. Taking a look at some more French examples, my fellow wardens came across this one from the Metropolitan Museum of Arts in New York, listed as a French origin partisan spontoon, which I was quite excited about for a while. But as LEGO is Danish, we started combing Danish museums, and as I was busy looking at ones near LEGO's hometown of Billund, my fellow warden Callum went straight to the capital and came across this. This is the Livgardens Historiske Samling in Copenhagen, a small specialist museum exhibiting the history of the Kongelige Livgarde, the Royal Lifeguard. Formed by King Frederick III in 1658, the Livgarde were bodyguards to the royal family during a time of political struggle with the nation of Sweden. The Livgarde are alive and well to this day, existing now as a mechanized infantry unit, and I mean, that's the one, right? We found it. We believe the polearm on display here is catalogued as a partisan, specifically of Danish origin. Now, LEGO are known for being quite proud of their Danish heritage, so of course this weird little weapon that I was struggling to find any information on is Danish. I should have known. Well, there you have it. They didn't make it up after all. It's a specific type of partisan, and as a partisan is a type of spear, the brick owl description of spear with 4 side blades is actually kind of adequate. And hopefully you learn something about other polearms along the way. I want to give my thanks to all my fellow wardens, but especially Callum for finding the exact artifact, and also to Liam, Jamie and Jake for their contributions. I also need to give a huge amount of credit to Playing with History on WordPress, as the only photo I can find where we can see our partisan is not taken from the museum website, but rather from this personal blog. They haven't posted in a little while, but without them, we would not have got to the conclusion. So again, thank you very much for that. Do of course let me know if you have any thoughts on this topic down below, and check out the pinned comment for an extra little tidbit. But from me, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.
I will show you the greatest nightmare.
Done.